Hi, welcome to module 4 mini exam review. I know your mini exam starts on the 18th. Yes, and it's open throughout the 18th to the 19th. And here it's going to be a little review on that. So I'm just going to share my screen, a little PowerPoint. Why? Why I feel like sometimes Zoom hates me. Why I can't do anything? No. Wait. I'm gonna figure this out. I need to figure this out. Hopefully now we'll be able to see it. There we go. Okay. So module 4 mini exam after technical issues. Here we go. So what do you need? Of course, you need to do the assignments under module 4, and specifically for this exam, I wouldn't be caring too much. Oh, hi, Paula. I wouldn't be caring too much about the Maasai essay, just because that's a bigger essay. You'll have more time to figure that out and do it. But of course, the earlier the start, the better. Just because it's an essay, right? So you want to have time to go in there, check it multiple times, and do the best work you can. Just put it there. You go. And of course, you need to watch your narrated lectures. You there. There's basically not a way you can get through this class without seeing her narrated lectures on there. So you need those two, and your make your own exam questions are always helpful to go in there and look through, because more often than not you will see those questions, or at least the rewording of those questions in your mini exam. So first of all, let's talk about the main points of what you need for the what is love uh, mini lecture. So first you need to know what is pair bonding and how that works into jealousy. So pair bonding is basically how we pair with mates. So how we get into marriages and relationships and stuff like that. And since fertility in humans, since not completely visual, some animals that some for some animals, I think it's bonobos, I'm not 100% sure, their genitals become inflamed, and you can see that the female is in fact fertile, so you'll know who was the baby daddy of the baby. But since in humans fertility is not visual, people tend to become jealous. You can see it throughout males, how they become jealous, because if they there's this working theory that if you don't know if the child is yours, you're not going to care for it as much as this you know it's yours. So jealousy and fertility and pair bonding. Uh, you also want to talk a little bit about how polyamory and loving various people at the same time is not even possible. So if you would look at later generations, let's say like your grandparents, and you ask them like, hey, how do you feel about polyamory? They probably are going to get a more gut reaction of negativity. Whereas if you would ask that in a classroom today, the reaction will probably get is like, oh, okay, if it works for them, and then it'll work for, I do not, wait, am I allowed to screenshot this? Yes, you can screenshot this. You still will be able to see it once we upload this, so whatever works for you is fine. But yes, so polyamory, and ethnogenesis and how we kind of change our perceptions of that. Also, if you have any questions at any time, you can put it in the chat or you can unmute yourself. I do not mind if you stop me at any point. I talk a lot. So I love when people talk back with me and do more of a conversation type of thing. Then you want to kind of look at friendship, the friend zone, and love. So my advice to you would be kind of think about how all those things work together. What you have to know what it means to be a friend. And I know Professor Laffy in her uh, lecture goes through like bullet points of what friends should be, you know, like trustworthy and they should be there for you and be open to doing tasks for you and help you move out and stuff like that. But also think about the cultural perception that if you are a good friend and you're devoted enough to a certain friend, you will be able to escape the certain friend zone and you become entitled to that relationship. And that's something discussed a lot in incels and incel culture and social media in general. But the truth is, there's a very big difference between love and specifically romantic love, which you will see soon, uh, and friendship. So friendship, uh, basically the difference between those two is that love has a completely different reaction in your body and in your brain. So relate that to the hormones and the skunk bear video. Trust me, the skunk bear video will save you so much time and so much research. And it's something that I've have had to go back to even in my other classes and in this same class to refresh those concepts. So yeah, skunk bear and the hormones and how those affect your body, and also know the basics of flirting. You know, what do we do when we flirt? We talk, we touch, we swivel and turn, which is, you can see that a lot in clubs and stuff like that. So let's say you're like in a club and you're with your girlfriends and you just went there to have a good time, and then a guy comes up to you to talk to you. Sometimes you will see the friend group kind of create a circle and not let that person in, and that's a way to let them know like, hey, we don't want to deal with you right now. And one liners are always a good way. For one liners, normally they have to be either really 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 cheesy or they do not work. So that's basically what you need to know about what is love. Any questions? Nada. So okay, I'm gonna keep going then. Then, oh, chat. Yes, I love this. Nope. Okay. Thank you, Paula. So next, communication. So this this part of the lectures is kind of shorter, which is kind of good. Because communication is key to relationships, right? So we need to understand that communications is also very much gendered. You can see how females are taught to be more communicative because they teach us to solve problems through words rather than, you know, like how a guy might be taught like, oh, if you're in a problem, you know, stand up to them and just maybe throw a fight. Rather females are taught, hey, if you're in a problem, try to work your way as much as possible with your words. And that translates over to how communication works. And you can see that play out also in relationships, specifically heterosexual relationships. How do we get to know each other through communication? You can't think about this about, you don't go around telling everybody your fantasies or your deepest fears, right? So there's a certain level of trust you need to tell certain information to people. So when you first meet a person, you might tell them like, "Oh, this is my name, my age, my major, um, maybe my astrological sign or something like that." But then once those levels of trust keep, you know, accelerating, you start seeing stuff like, oh, these are my past experiences, these are my biggest fears, this is who I think I am, and my perception of self. So the more you trust a person, the more info you will give them, and more the communication will become better. And there are certain patterns of communication. So for good communication, you will see people that are reassuring and validating of themselves, of the other. And there's also room to be angry. And I know that sounds like I don't know what I'm talking about, but in a relationship, you kind of need that space to let out repressed emotions. And it's not the idea of we need to be angry to have a good relationship, but rather I am able to be angry and tell you how I feel, even if that means to be angry. And also the idea of letting go. So, letting go in a relationship, I mean, by, when you get like angry, you kind of put it in the back burner just because you don't want to maybe say something that you'll regret, because words have like meaning and they're powerful. So you kind of put it in the back burner. And if you, after a while, you forget about it, you're like, oh, okay, I let go and I don't mind. But then it keeps bothering you for days and weeks and stuff like that, then it means you are more calm when talking about it with your partner, but at the same time you notice, hey, this is bothering me, I want to talk about it. So warnings in communication patterns is excessive like criticism. There's a difference between constructive criticism and excessive criticism. And another good example of this is defensiveness. So defensiveness is when you're like, oh, somebody tells you like, oh, I really like that bandana on you, and like, why do you like that? Like, what if it was a hat? And that type of situation. And some improvement you can do if you're having communication problems is problem solving together, work through problems rather than just saying like, oh, we'll talk about it later, and just never talking about it at all. And nurturing your commitment, doing activities together, nurturing that relationship. So that's communication. Any questions?
I don't have like a question, or maybe it is kind of a question, but like also like a statement. So I have like a best friend. She's been my best friend for like 12 years now, and like our communication has kind of like died down once like college started. Um, she lives here in Gainesville as well, but she has a boyfriend, and so I feel like her boyfriend is kind of like being the reason um that like she hasn't been talking to me, and like she's been telling me that she's like busy, but then like I'll see on her Snapchat story that she's hanging out with him or with other people. So yeah, I'm not sure if you have any like advice on that.
Well, I definitely don't want to be the one telling you this is what you have to do, Angelica.
Right,
Um,
right.
but sometimes you'll see how when people engage in a romantic relationship, kind of like their attention focuses on that, and maybe they're not even doing it noticing. But uh, I guess you could, talk to your best friend and be like, hey, we've been best friends for I don't know how many years, and you're kind of, I feel like you're ignoring me because of this guy for however long they've been together. And kind of talk through it with her, just try to bring her up. Maybe she's not aware of it and she doesn't know it's bothering you. Sometimes that happens and we get too wrapped up in our own head. So definitely talk to your best friend. I would say is a good advice. And take everything you learn from anthropology and specifically Professor Laffy's lectures. She is way better at talking to this than me, to kind of apply it to your relationships.
Okay, all right.
I
Thank you.
hope that kind of helped or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you are welcome. Any other questions about communication or statements, comments? I also like adding to discussions, not just a question in general.
Well, I'm wondering mostly like what kind of questions do you think we'll encounter in the mini exam about these things? Just
Um, so remember that the class has evolved a lot since I've taken it because I took it when it was still in person. So it's kind of evolved a lot. But for questions, I would that's a good question. I would uh, focus and pay most attention to I mean, when or at least what I tend to do when I start asking myself like, oh, what questions could be on here, is looking at the mini modules and seeing what she has highlighted, bolded in the PowerPoints. What has she like repeated herself various times? Those are the questions you'll probably see the most, and those are cues from your professor saying, telling you, hey, you need to know this because I'm going to ask you about it. But for communication, I would tend to think most about how communication is gendered. And she goes over that pretty well. And the patterns of communication, as in just knowing like those bullet points, or having a general idea on them. And for the levels of trust, I think she'll probably ask you again. I don't know because I don't see I don't see the mini exam or anything about that. But I guess she'll probably ask you about. She has like a pyramid thing going on in the levels of communication. She'll probably ask you something from that. I hope that answered your question in a very long-winded kind of way. All right, thank you. You're welcome, Paula. Okay. Yeah, I hope it's nice to hear that. Okay, so next, behavioral models of love, and I would pay very close attention to all of these. I think these are most important in this mini module, even more than communications, because these take communication into account, and you'll see them play out within love more. So psychologists usually use these models. First one you'll see is attachment theory, which is how the mother and the child bonded uh, when it was born. It was still a child, and how that will affect adult relationships for that kid. Pay super special attention to this because I want you to relate it back to epigenetics. So epigenetics, we said, hey, what happens with a mom and a kid that are like in vitro affects how that kid will turn out, and their genetic mapping will look like. Think about how the researcher in that video also talks about high licking rats, and how the rats that were highly licked by their mothers turned out different from the rats that weren't. So think about how basically that, but for humans. So how you nurture a baby and take care of it, and that first stages of bonding that kid will ever have, that will most likely come from the mom, or at least in this theory it talks about the mom, how it will affect when they grow up. super special attention to that. Special highlight. Then we have Sternberg's triangular theory, which is a triangle, and of course because it's called triangular theory, and it's a way of seeing love, and I think it has. I actually have it here somewhere. Sternberg has in one end intimacy and in the other passion and commitment. So you'll see those three work out and how you need those three to get love. And you will see it also in other classes, like I'm taking marriage and family right now, and they talked about Sternberg's faces of love. And then Lee's colors of love. So this researcher basically, I think he's I could be wrong, but I think he's a psychologist, and he brought his patients in and like determine, oh, this is your color of love, and then basically tell the couple if they were compatible or not. And he gave those colors of love different names that come from Greek mythology. So you can see like Eros, Ludus, Mania, and stuff like that. Where, for example, Mania is the type of love where it's like obsessive and it's not really that healthy. And yeah, so those three theories, super mega important. Specifically the one about attachment theory because it relates to other course material. Any questions, comments?
Who is your teacher for marriage and family? Because I'm actually taking that class as well.
My professor is Doug Deco.
Oh, okay.
I love him. I love his class. If you guys, and I ended up taking that class by like rescheduling. It wasn't something that I was, I heard like marriage and family. That doesn't sound really interesting compared to what I'm learning. But then I ended up taking the class because of a scheduling difference and stuff like that, and I ended up loving it. And I love that class. And it's not just about marriage and family, but looking at how females and males are different, and we're taught to be different, and how that relates to love and relationships. And it's so cool. So really take that class, even if you're not like a psychology major, a sociology major, or even an anthropology major. You'll learn so much. So yeah. I hope that answers your question, and Erika.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, Paula.
Okay, so my question was, what were the three ends, I guess, or corners of the triangular theory thing?
Oh, it's I think it is. She goes over it in her mini lecture. She has the picture up there.
Oh, okay.
But from memory and from what I have on my notes here, I think it's intimacy, and it really doesn't matter at what point it is, but intimacy, passion, and commitment.
Oh, okay.
So you need
Thank you.
passion to drive, like you need commitment to get you to a level of intimacy, and they all basically like work together, right?
Okay.
So yeah, Sternberg's.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, add-ons? Nope. Okay, let's go next. Marriage. So for marriage, you want to look at marriage cross-culturally. Think about polyandry and polygamy, and how marriage is kind of different of how, marriage is not the same in every place and every culture. A lot of marriages are vital in cultures because let's look at like pastoral cultures. For example, I can't say it's all of them, but you can commonly see that in pastoral cultures, like for example the Maasai, marriage is important because the wealth is passed through. So for the Maasai, at some point in the video, you'll see like the girls talking about marriage, and she says like, oh, and the husband brings over the cattle, and it's that type of marriage is vital in these communities. And then one of my favorites, I have to say, one of my favorites articles and outside sources Professor Laffy brings in this class is Serena Nanda and her research about what is it? I forgot the name. Arranged marriage in India, and how it basically tells us, hey, do you really choose your own mates? Like, do you really have complete free will over who do you choose to be your partner? And Serena comes in, she's Indian, but she's been raised in the United States, and she goes into to India and be like, hey, how can you like even think about being in an arranged marriage? I could never. And the truth is, at some point, even if it's arranged or not, we go through these processes with our partners where if your friends and your family do not approve of your partner, most chances than not, the relationship won't survive because you depend on your social circles and your um basically your uh your social circles and your social networks of family, friends, and stuff like that. Really interesting. Really look into it. I love that. You also will see about the decline of passion and how you normally see that in older couples, because I want you to think about hormones for a minute here. So when that relationship starts, what hormone is like extremely low?
What was the question again?
So when you start a relationship, right? Like when you start falling in love, what hormone starts like what hormone just drops and it's basically not even present there?
I'd like to
Is
say
it
the stress hormone.
What wait, you both talked at the same time. Say that again?
The stress hormone.
No. That's actually kind of high a little bit. Yes, Angelica?
is it serotonin?
Serotonin, yes. Bingo. So make believe extra credit points, like Professor Laffy says. So um, your serotonin levels are low, and which levels are high?
Oxytocin.
Oxytocin. So once those start, the relationship keeps going. How does those change? Look at my hands. Like this.
I think I'm a little bit confused with like the serotonin because isn't serotonin like the happy hormone?
Yes, but serotonin makes you feel mellow. So even though
Oh,
serotonin makes you happy, it makes you basically chill. So
okay.
serotonin is kind of long-term happiness,
Okay.
and oxytocin is that it's what creates those like I think it's oxytocin. I could be wrong, but I'm almost sure oxytocin is what creates those like sweaty palms and like the butterflies, and it's exciting at one point, but that will, if a relationship is good, that will kind of decline, and oxytocin and serotonin will come up. But once that happens, your relationship could possibly fall flat and boring, and your passion will could drop. So um for decline of passion, you want to look into, doing stuff together again, trying to bring in, the um those hormones that will cause passion again, like oxytocin. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. And then for marriage, you also want to look at your power wheel, which I got handy dandy in here, and think about how your power wheel will affect relationship failures. So if you're looking at your power wheel and um, you know I mean, if you basically do any of these with your repeatedly in a relationship, it will probably cause for it to fail. So that's marriage and what you need from it, or what I think you need from it. And yeah, that's basically the end of the like the review. If you have any questions, now I would open up for you know, open discussion. So if you have any questions at all, you can definitely go ahead and do it now.
Well, I have comment
Mhm.
um about the arranged marriage. It's just a fun comment that I just wanted to add because to me it was like a really like a big shift in perspective. And I feel like I think we talked about this before in the first modules about the media and how media influences us and the way we, think, even like the happy endings and, stuff like that. Um, and it wasn't until I think I saw something or heard someone say this or read it somewhere. I can't really remember where I got this, but it was a really big enlightenment for me because I used to think of arranged marriage as something bad,
Mhm.
but it's something that obviously is in someone's like it's really deep in someone's culture, and since we live our own culture differently, it's hard to understand theirs. And I read somewhere that to people who or cultures that work with arranged marriages, their what do you call it? Their reasoning is, I think it's usually someone in your family that picks someone for you. I think it's someone assigned. Doesn't really have to be your parents, but someone in like your near family. And this person was saying like, "Oh, well, how would I not let my uncle pick who I'm going to marry when my uncle is older than I am and who is going to know me better, or who has seen me grow more in my life than my uncle?" So I would of course trust anyone as my uncle or like my uncle to pick someone I would want to marry because they know me best. And I was like, wow, that's like smart, like I would never get into that, but that's, it was just a fun fact that I was like, wow, impressive.
And you're
And
totally on the nose with that. And I think one of the women Serena was interviewing, she said the exact same thing. Like, why wouldn't my parents know me the best out of anybody? Why
mhm,
wouldn't I let my parents, just pick that out for me? Why?
yeah,
They know me the best. They wouldn't want me to be with somebody they don't trust. So I don't have any problem with it because I trust that my parents trust the right people.
yeah. Yeah, and I know some people want to like, I don't know, demonize arranged marriages, saying like, oh, sometimes parents don't have the best interest, or sometimes parents, or sometimes, there's been cases in which, 13-year-old girls are marrying old men. But same thing happens everywhere, and even here in America, like some people marry abusers, some people marry, people who thought were great and then they don't, they don't work out or stuff like that. So I feel like it's very hypocritical or blinding or blinded, like a blinded argument saying, oh, well, there's horrible stuff happening in those marriages when there's also horrible stuff happening in any marriage. So yeah, that was just something really interesting and eye-opening.
I would say that if you see somebody that, in specifically when you are talking about anthropology, where the goal is to be as not to the goal is to try to not reflect your own culture onto what you're studying, because we are culture. We are our culture, and it's not something we can escape ever, basically. And the goal is to try to not bring in what we think is right or wrong, or moral, ideals and stuff like that, into something you're studying, like arranged marriages, but rather try your best to use the culture. Let's say you're studying the Maasai, right? Use that culture's thinking and their moral system and their culture to think about stuff like, for example, arranged marriage within their culture, right? So you don't want to use morals and ideals that don't come from their culture to determine their culture, because who are you to do that, right? Basically, that's the idea that kind of goes on. So if you see anybody like having really strong opinions about, for example, arranged marriages, most often than not, they will be projecting their own culture onto it. And that's just not the goal for anthropology in general. You don't want to be ethnocentric, right? You don't want to
Yeah.
be stuck in your own culture, but rather try to be open to the idea of, hey, maybe these people think about it this way, so I'm going to think about it that way too, to understand it as best as possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool, I love talking about that. Any other comments or add-ons? I like bringing this type of stuff in the, conversation, because it's not always just studying for class, but rather understanding maybe just something that interests you. Any other questions, add-ons, comments?
I
Nope.
think I had a question of about the wheel. Are we to replace like every
Yes.
bullet?
So you'll want to replace for so you want to okay, so you want to replace the middle with a positive the positive flip flop of that title. You want to do the same thing for the titles on the outside. And for the bullet points, you don't have to do every single bullet point, because there's a lot of bullet points in those little, sections. But for example, for in my case, for physical abuse, the little section, what I did, right, I took all of that and I flip flopped it to three main bullet points, like no unwanted physicality, and another one, if physicality is sexual, then have consent before that and talk out before that happens. And at some point they mention like destroying valuables or sentiments and hurting partners parents pets partners pets. And I said, taking care of your partner's pets and their possessions and belongings. So that's basically what you want to do.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I also want to say to you guys, Anthropology Club, uh, I'm your president, and that's open to you guys if you want. We discuss a lot of stuff. Like right now, we were talking about with Paula. That's something that we openly discuss in Anthropology Club, and it's something that you may not necessarily talk about in depth in the class, but you can talk it out with a bunch of people in a club, and that's always fun. And our next meeting will be on the 23rd. You'll probably see you will see an announcement soon going out from the anthropology canvas shell to the classes, because if you're taking this class, then you must be interested in anthropology in some way, and you might be interested in the club. So yeah, that is open to you. And I hope to see you guys there in our next meeting on the 23rd at 12 through Zoom.
Thank you.
All right. Also, one more quick thing. I noticed that we had started like reviews on Thursdays, but now they're Fridays. Is that like something that's going to be reoccurring?
Yes. So we noticed that more people were showing up on Fridays, specifically if we did it bi-weekly, because I let's take me an example. I will start studying when I notice it's time to cram. And since there is more time in between each mini exam. Doing it bi-weekly just yielded a better response towards most students. So yes, it will be from now on bi-weekly on Fridays. So the next one would be the 30th. I could be wrong. Let me look up a calendar. The next one will be the
Yeah, it's the
30th.
30th.
So, yes,
All right, thank you.
you are welcome.
I had a question
Mm-hmm.
on the Jello assignment. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure if you know
Yes,
about like the
the Masai one.
instructions and everything. Huh?
The Masai one.
Yeah, I think it's about, yeah, it's the Messiah one. I read a little bit of the instructions, but then it's so much, it's overwhelming. I'm like, and I saw the dude did, and I was like, I think I can wait on that. But I know it's a really important assignment. So I was wondering if you could give me an overview on the assignment, because the day the teacher explained that, I wasn't present, and I haven't checked the Zoom meeting. I mean, yeah, the Zoom class meeting. So if you could just give me like an overview on what we have to do, I would really appreciate it.
So, for the Masai, I would say this is your biggest assignment because it is a Jello assignment in the course. Um, so you basically want to do an essay, which is answering a standard set. She gives you like a set of questions, and she
Mm-hmm.
gives you some videos to watch. So you want to do an essay answering those questions, and then I think let's just pull it up for 1 minute because I like talking about this because it is a big assignment and it can be confusing. So
And what did Jello mean? That's where I kind of got lost.
for wait, say that again.
What did Jello mean?
Oh,
I know she said it was something about like determining something about the class.
so Jello, basically what that means is that the assignment will be um, used to determine what students, like how much students are being able to learn from the class. So basically, you guys all submit your Jello assignments, and then somebody from like a committee or like it's not Professor Laffy or us, or it's somebody outside from the college but from outside of this class that will take randomly some students' essays and use it to determine like, oh, these students are like learning something, or they are. She goes into it a little bit better than me, but Jello basically means other people are going to see it and review it to see what this class is doing. So it's
Okay.
important that you are paying attention to this, right?
Mm.
Uh, mm, there you go. General education learning outcomes. That is the definition of it. Thank you. Mm, uh, mm, mm. Yeah, give me a minute while I read.
No, it's fine. Thank you.
Was this do you have to turn this? Oh, October. Oh no, yeah, we are in October. I'm lost. Did you guys turn this in already, or is that like an outdated timestamp?
Was it the questions?
Yeah, let's see what it is specifically.
Yeah, I believe we already did those. Yeah, from the video.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Oh,
the questions.
Okay, so these were the question I was talking about. So um when I was talking, oh, you'll get a standard set of questions and videos, and then you'll write an essay. So it's good that you already took a look at this, and you also did these ones, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's good that you took a look at this because this is what basically your essay will be about. So now that you answered those questions, you will be able give me 1 minute because the class keeps ever changing and I feel like I'm never completely up to date. Okay, she goes over all of it. That's good. Oh, okay. So yeah, what I was saying, sampled for evaluation by the college to assess how teachers and students are working together to meet educational goals. And for this class, it's multicultural and global awareness. So you will see when you start taking classes that it says like it will in the description it will fulfill your da 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 requirement, and it's normally these type of jello requirements. So for this class, it's multicultural and global awareness, and you'll show your multicultural and global awareness learning through this assignment. And basically, yeah, it involves a synthesis of varied materials and experience to broaden your perspective and challenge your preconceived notions. I love this assignment. It's one of those assignments where you just learn so much and you need to get out of your head to do it. And it's what I was talking about, trying to be your best with not being ethnocentric. So she went over this whole PowerPoint in a lecture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she posted that lecture.
I believe she did.
Okay. So if she did that, I don't have to necessarily go over all this because as you can see, it's a lot. But basically, you want to use those questions that she gave you and create an essay out of them.
Okay.
And I think maybe it could have changed, but when we did it, or the last time we did this in the class, she made us look at it as if we were stakeholders at the UN and talk about yes, okay. So you want to think that you're at the UN and use the UN information on the what is it the every like all the rights each person has like your
Yeah, the universal rights, I think.
universal rights document thing, and then use that compared to the Maasai culture and say if the Maasai culture violates any of those fundamental rights,
Mm-hmm.
and if the UN should basically uh,
Like eradicate.
no interfere. There you go.
Oh,
Interfere
okay. Yeah.
this practice.
But so am I supposed to write like that? Because I think she said we did. Like, do I actually have to pick a position, or am
Yeah,
I just supposed to be just
I
talking about it?
I think it could have changed again, but last time we did this, you have to take a position at the end. Rather, you have to take a position basically if it's right or wrong and say, hey, either, this is what the culture does and find your own meaning towards why
Mm-hmm.
should the UN interfere or use the universal rights document. Again, it's comparing Maasai and universal rights document with the your policy. So you're
Okay.
kind of making a policy of what you think should be done, comparing the UN universal rights document with the Maasai culture and how that works.
Okay.
It's a lot to think about, but
Yeah.
does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
And also, if you read the formatting rubric, it kind of gives a rundown of what you need to include in your essay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Is it?
I think it's in modules.
Is it in the modules?
No, it's right there, right at the bottom of your screen. Up a little. It says
Oh, there we go. This one
here for GLO. Yeah.
Oh, wait. What happened? Oh, there you go. Yeah, so this is a really rundown of everything you need.
Awesome. Yeah, I just hadn't taken the time to look into it deeply because it was just overwhelming to think about it and not really understand what it was about. So now I'm facing it with like a clearer head.
Yeah, you still have time.
No, yeah, we do.
And you guys, I know last time we did this, the TAs, I think that's going to change this time because there's less of us this time. Last time we were able to take those drafts and basically say, hey, this is what you did right, this is what you did wrong, from like a grader experience, not so much of a student perception, and we gave you feedback on that. But this time you're getting a peer review, which is also nice. So yeah, it's a it's what we like call this like one of those progressive assignments. So it's not just like we did it all one day and that's it, but rather it's like an ongoing process. And it's good that you get accustomed to these type of assignments because it's what you will most likely see in your professional career. You turn in something and they say, oh, this is wrong, then you get it back and you change it, and then you turn it in and they turn it to another person and they say, oh, change this, and you change, it's that type of development.
Okay. Well, this was very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. I love to hear that because all I want to do is be helpful to you guys. So it's really nice to hear that I'm helpful for you guys. I know the study commons ends at 4. I don't know if this is just gonna all close down immediately, but basically we're done for today. And I'm so happy you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
You are absolutely welcome. And I will